Okay, I think we can start now. Good morning or good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to the Wasteless Monthly Cafe Talk in December. So what's on the menu today? The coffee of the day will be delivered by Mara Petruzzelli from Agroscope, and she will talk about how changing the meal sequence in school canteen can reduce vegetable food waste. Then we have the testing notes, so the time for you to ask questions, make your comments, or share your opinion with us. And of course, we will ask for our tip at the end. We will ask you to answer the 2 Slido questions, so this will be fast. You don't need to tip much. And at the end, we will present the next month specialties. So with this, people are still joining, which is very good. Mara, then I give it to you for the coffee of the day.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction and good morning or yeah, whatever time it is. Also from my side, I'll now share my screen so that you can all see it. All right. So yes, once again, welcome everyone. Today I'll be presenting one of the recent work that I've been conducting together with a couple of colleagues from the University of Bologna and a colleague from Wageningen University, a work titled Can Changing the Meal Sequence in School Canteens Reduce Vegetable Food Waste? A cluster randomized control trial. So everything started there by acknowledging that school food environments are a crucial segment that can be used to intervene on the transformation of food system because they basically shape the food behavior of the next generation consumers. Based on this, we also know that within Europe, we do face one main challenge when dealing with school food environments. And this is the insufficient consumption of vegetables that goes together with those vegetables being having at least the larger food waste amount registered. For this reason, let me say that recently, in the last decades, several interventions have been developed by researchers to incentivize vegetable intakes in schools and simultaneously to reduce food waste. It was therefore following this international call that during my research period, I've been lucky enough to give birth to a living laboratory aiming to strengthen sustainability in schools' meals. A living laboratory specifically targeting the Italian's Naztu region of Emilia-Romagna, which is basically the green area you see there on Italy's map. The Living Laboratory was, since the beginning, participated by a broad range of stakeholders coming from different fields. So, policymakers, primarily from the regions, technicians, school food professionals, and teachers' representatives, and of course, last but not least, researchers. The aim of the Living Laboratory was really to guide the policy action at the regional level by providing robust scientific basis for this. A scientific basis, though, able to gather the different perspectives of those stakeholders that work daily in the sector, so in the school food environment in our case. One of the activity that we developed within the Living Lab was the co-design and the testing of a set of interventions for reducing food waste. And the paper I'll be dealing with tomorrow was born exactly in this framework. So we aimed in the work to test the effectiveness of a specific intervention, a choice architecture one, in primary schools, changing the sequence of how school meals were served. You should know that in Italy, children at schools got served with the first dish made of cereals, a second dish made of protein, a third dish, a side dish made of vegetables, bread, and fruits in this order. So the first part of the figure you see there. In the second part of the slide, you see the intervention menu that we decided to test. So we basically anticipated the side dish made of vegetables as a very first item in the menu line. Based on this, we set a few research hypotheses, of which the two most important ones are listed there. So first and foremost, we wanted to verify if anticipating this side dish of vegetables could actually lead to lower amount of plate waste. Second, we also wanted to double check potential trade-offs. So we verified if this anticipation could actually lead to higher plate waste of the first dish and second dish that were moved afterwards. To do so, we implemented a cluster randomized control trial design, gathering in total 26 primary schools in our region of analysis. So basically the red dots that you see there on the map. Given that in Italy, the local sanitary units do have a degree of freedom on how school food environments are organized, we stratified our sampling for our sample for the 8 local sanitary units existed. We used schools as a unit of randomization, while third grade classes were used as units of analysis. Last but not least, we allocated randomly those schools either to a control or to a treatment group. After having all our schools ready to participate, we started the data collection. We identified a first week where the normal menu was served through all schools participating. Over there, we weighted food waste via direct weighting in 3 main moments. So basically, food prepared for children, prepared food, plate waste, so what was left in children's plates, and serving waste, so what basically remained in the serving trays. For the 3 consecutive weeks, schools in the control group just went on with their normal menu, while schools in the treatment groups received our intervention menu. In the third week of this, we implemented our second measurement that was exactly identical to our first measurement. Last but not least, how we finally evaluated the effect of the intervention. We estimated the average treatment effect on the treated. Our outcome variable was the plate waste percentage to account for differences in the amount of food serves in different schools, but also differences in the weights of different food categories. In our model that you see described there on the slides, we also included a set of covariates, basically capturing characteristics potentially influencing the food behavior of children at class level. We estimated the same model both for the full sample and for the 8 sanitary units, so basically our strata. After all this methodological elaboration, what did we obtain? Quite some interesting findings. Relatively to our first hypothesis, if you remember it well, we found out that our intervention, so anticipating the side dish made of vegetables, had very heterogeneous effects across the different school clusters, so basically the second part of the table. But when looking at the full sample level, the intervention had no significant effects in changing, so in decreasing the amount of plate waste for the vegetable food category. A similar finding also emerged for our second hypothesis, and this was actually quite a good news. Over there, we found that the intervention also had very heterogeneous effects across the different school clusters for the plate waste of the first dish and second dish. But when summing this up at the full sample level, the anticipation of our vegetables did not significantly increase the plate waste amount of our first and second dishes. So all in all, what are some major key remarks that can be drawn by our analysis? First, based on previous literature, the study here has the largest and most diverse sample of schools that have been, let's say, collected so far for similar studies. This also means that results do go beyond internal and external validity levels of existing studies already there. Given this, the emerging results do represent a significant science-based policy, let's say starting point for guiding recommendations in the school canteen sector. And it is for this reason that, thanks to our living laboratory, policymakers at regional level have been suggested not to upscale homogeneously this intervention for all schools in the entire regional territory, because the heterogeneity in school food environments basically overcame the effect of the interventions. We also highlighted a few next steps for future researchers out there. And basically, the idea is that to isolate and to try as much as possible to identify the general effect patterns, we recommend future research to create repeated evidence of these or similar interventions across different countries and across different dietary contexts. Why? Because this will really help us in better understanding how a single intervention can be replicated and applied in very different and diverse contexts. On this note, I really stop the talk here just by saying that if you're interested and you want to know more on this work, the paper has been finally published in the Food Policy Journal, and you can find it by scanning the QR code there. And I also remain, of course, available to any questions or comments that you may have just today on this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Mara. This is very interesting, and I just want to say one thing because at this moment, we are always looking at the efficiency of intervention, and this is a very good example on how can we assess the efficiency of this intervention. And we have already Kohei with a question. Please, Kohei, start.
Right, thank you. Yes, it's very important to measure accurately and see the effect, evaluate the effects. Yeah, so you saw a very big variance in terms of results, and do you have any ideas what are the factors that cause these big variance?
Yeah, you're right. Indeed, that's something we observed quite a lot. And that's also something we let there for future research to analyze this better. I mean, we tried to control differences in schools quite a lot already. But of course, you have to think. Let's say that our main explanation is the fact that school meals are not governed uniformly. So this means some schools do have internal kitchens, other do have external catering providers. Some schools do have very large places or canteens where children eat all together. Others do have a very different sitting scheme of children. Menus are also diverse, and this can indeed play a role, because you have to think that the regional level, each and every city do propose different menus in terms of ingredients used, but also in terms of recipes and compositions. So we didn't it was not precisely the scope of this work to identify exactly the drivers of those differences, but we're working on it for the future steps. But we assumed all those different dynamics can significantly play a role in this. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the answer. Yeah, I thought, this kind of nudge would work well, but yeah, it's a mixed result. And yeah, maybe I can suggest to Japanese authorities as well trying this kind of
Yeah.
intervention. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks to
thank you
you.
very much. Yeah, I also had something like a related question. If you look at the demographics, like what was the age of the children, and if you did somehow like a categorization, the first grade wasted more, the second, like what I mean, if this is also a factor that has an effect on the amount of waste.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you very much also for this question. For in the case of our analysis, let's say we only targeted third grade classes. So only children in Italy. This corresponds to 8 years old children. And this was basically decided and agreed upon in the co-design process that we used for defining the intervention. So basically within our living laboratory. And we decided to pick up only third grade classes because in the first 2 years of primary schooling, children still need to get acquainted to the new school scheme, also in terms of food programs, while third grade classes are already somehow used to the school canteens as they are. And then having third grade classes in there, we could also have a potential of a couple of years after the intervention to further if we use the same sample of students and potentially thinking about other sort of educational interventions or follow-ups intervention. So we only targeted third grade students, let's say. So there was not really a variability on the age of
Okay.
of the students, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay. We have also a comment in the chat from Anna. The intake of vegetables among children and young adults is challenging. It might be interesting that along with changing the meal sequence, possibly turn vegetables plate more colorful and appealing that could improve the vegetable intake and reduce vegetable waste, which is something that make me think if maybe the not significance of the results give us the idea that one intervention is not enough and that you might combine this with some other intervention like awareness campaign or changing also the aspect of the menus and so on. Did you also, or maybe your colleagues will also consider this, like to combine interventions in the future?
Yeah, no, 100% in the sense that, of course, there is over there a huge list, a very long list of interventions that could be actually combined with this one or that could potentially substitute this one with the same goal of increasing vegetable intakes. And we reasoned on that a lot, of course. So yeah, the idea is potentially to combine such a choice architecture intervention with some more educative aspects. So basically explaining children's what's the importance of eating vegetables, why wasting vegetable is not really appropriate, from also looking at the environmental and nutritional perspective, and these could potentially amplify our final results. My colleagues have been working as a follow-up of this intervention on second interventions where they also work with students directly to deliver and co-create educational materials related to food consumption. So yeah, that's of course a very interesting way forward, and luckily we do have already some promising results out there in literature saying that having educational intervention or combining more than one interventions is a quite effective strategy for this. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or any questions from the people which are here with us today? No? Okay, then thank you very much, Mara. And then I will go to, if you can stop sharing so that I can share again. Then now it's the time for the tip. So we have for you 2 questions. So please take your phone and scan the QR code that you see now on the screen, or just go to slido.com and put there the code that you are seeing. So I will leave 1 minute for people to connect. This is not much. Okay. Good. Then we go to the first question, which is describe. Oh, sorry. I have so many things on my screen. I don't know where my mouse is. So describe in a word your take-home message of the Café Talk of today. Okay, we have some answers. Two people are still typing. Okay. Oh, one participant. We wait. Okay, good. So we have all the six answered now. Thank you very much. And we go to the next question. How do you rate the Monthly Cafe Talk second edition so far? Okay, we have the six answers, which is very good. Let me find my mouse here to see where I am. Okay, so with this, I go to the announcement of the final Cafe Talk. So after two editions of this final of the Wasteless Cafe Talk, we are closing to the end. So the last one will be on December 19 before going into the Christmas, the holidays break. So we will have a presentation given by Gyula Casa from the University of Veterinary Medicine in Budapest. And he will talk about household food waste indicators and measurements now and in the future. So join us on December 19 at 12:30 for the final Cafe talk. And with this, if there are no other comments or things to discuss, I will thank you for your participation. Have a nice Friday. Enjoy the weekend. Some places a long weekend. And see you